Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Brothers and sisters and dear Shaykh, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Once again, delighted to have you all participating and listening, inshallah. Tonight, as we mentioned in the message, is our penultimate session. So we're going to have similar to what we've had before in terms of an introduction video from our dear Sayyid Ali. And tonight the topic is on the essence of Quran. Now we thought we've discussed some elements of this at the beginning of Ramadan, but now with our experience with the Quran a little bit more enhanced, inshallah, we can talk about this topic in a more deeper form, inshallah. So what we will do first of all is have the video, and then we'll have an open discussion, inshallah, with everyone present, inshallah. So let me just get that ready. صلى على محمد وعلى محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Today we'll be looking at Surah number 3, Surah Ali Imran, ayah 124. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الذين ينفقون في السراء والضراء والكاظمين الغيظ والعافين عن الناس والله يحب المحسنين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Whenever we are trying to find the essence of the Holy Quran, we need to understand who the author of the Holy Quran and the attributes of the author is. We know the author of the Holy Quran is no other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is known through His attributes, His beautiful name, the 99 beautiful names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The most prominent of those names, the most ones that shine out is His mercy and compassion, which is why you find in the beginning of nearly every surah of the Holy Quran, apart from one, it starts with in the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even says in the Holy Quran, وَكَتَبَ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ الرَّحْمَةِ. He's prescribed upon Himself mercy. Everything He does is based on that mercy and compassion. وَسَبَقَتْ رَحْمَتِي غَضَبِي. You know, there's a hadith Qudsi which says, my mercy overcomes my wrath or anger or punishment or justice. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the first and foremost, is the most merciful, the most kind. So the essence of the Quran is based on this, with the author being the most kind. Now, what is the nature of the deliverer of the message, which is no other than our Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala therefore comes and He reminds us again, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. We did not send you, O Prophet, except as a mercy to the world. So now we understand that both the author of this book and the deliverer of this book have the key components that they have is the concept of mercy. So whenever we look at the Holy Quran, we should always put that lens in our eyes, the lens of mercy, and look at the verses through that lens. The Prophet also has an aim for his message. He says, إِنَّمَا بُعُثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. I have been sent, my main mission, my aim of my mission is to perfect the moral traits. Makarim al-akhlaq, to make our akhlaq, our manners, the way we conduct ourselves with others and with people and with everyone around us in the best of manners. This is akhlaq, this is manners. Now, of course, akhlaq is not just based on actions. What akhlaq is different from just being good or doing good actions. Because a bad person can do good actions. But someone who has got good akhlaq, they have transformed their inner self. Their spiritual nature, the nature of their heart, their soul has changed. They've gone through a transformation within themselves. They have become good within. And once you've become good within, you cannot do bad actions. Not on purpose anyway. because you've transformed yourself, you purified yourself from all the jealousy, hatred, arrogance, everything, then your actions will automatically be good. But a bad person can do good actions. That's not akhlaq. That's called adab in Arabic, or etiquette. They can have good etiquette. Someone can have good etiquette. But what someone has good akhlaq manners is they have transformed their spiritual self, their inner self, to be closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Holy Prophet. So imagine a fire, for example. The fire, the essence of fire is heat. That's what makes a fire. A fire is something that brings out heat. It is heat. The closer you get as a person, if you're walking towards the fire, the closer you get to the fire, the more you absorb the attributes of that fire. And the attributes of the fire is heat. The more you will become warm and hot in yourself. That's why the closer we get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more we should be absorbing of His attributes, of His beautiful names in our own self. And that's what spirituality is. That's what closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. To be more godly, to be more like God, to be more like the people who are closest to God, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, who reflected the beautiful attributes of Allah on earth, who showed us what true spirituality and closeness to Allah is. There's a beautiful hadith, a beautiful narration which says, the closer you get to God, the more your compassion increases. You see, this is a measure to see how close we are to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's how our compassion, our mercy towards others, Allah's creation is. And that's how we understand how close we are or how far we are from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, in the Holy Quran, there are 6,236 verses that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed, or ayat that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed. Only around 550 of them are to do with laws. Yet many people focus their whole life on law, on Sharia law, what to do, what they should be doing, how they should be praying, how they should be. Now, all these are good, but there's a purpose behind that law, and that is to transform ourselves, to make ourselves more holy, more godly, more better in our akhlaq and manners, because that's the essence of the message of Rasulullah. So therefore, the essence of the message of the Quran is exactly this, which is improving our akhlaq. Now, the verse that I mentioned in the beginning, it says, الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ فِي السَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ. It gives you the attributes of the muttaqeen. You know, in the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah, it gives you the faith component of al-muttaqeen. To be a muttaqi, you need to believe in this, you need to believe in that. There's a faith component. And then there's an action component where it transforms yourself. It's saying, the characteristics of the muttaqeen are those who spend in the way of Allah in sarra'i wa dharra, in ease, when they're in ease, and in adversity, when it's in hardship, they spend in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not just when they, it's not just loose coins that you have that you give to charity. You're helping in times of difficulty, when you are only just about making enough for yourself, but you find someone else needs something and you give it to them. That is actually helping someone in adversity. And that is where you find in Surah 3, same surah, and a few verses before, in ayah 92, it says, لَن تَنَالُوا الْبِرَّ حَتَّى تُنْفِقُوا مِمَّا تُحِبُّونَ. You will not achieve righteousness, that greatness, that position, until you give away from that which you love yourself. Why? Because when we give that which we love, when we're giving in adversity, in difficulty, then we are transforming ourselves. We are removing our ego and thinking about others. And that's the essence that the Quran is trying to portray. Which is why you find in Surah 90 of the Holy Quran, Surah Al-Balad, he says, O id'amin fi yawmin di masghaba. He says the attributes of the great ones are those who give food in a time of hunger. When they're hungry themselves, they give to others. And that's the true nature of charity. Because charity, by the way, is not just giving money. It's giving some of your time, giving your time. You're selfish with your time. You like to spend time with your own self and doing your own thing. You spend that for others. You give someone a call that you haven't called for a long time. You check up on them. This is all charity. That's why the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam would say, even smiling to others is charity. Saying a kind word. And these are the essence of the Quran. In Surah 2, Ayah 83. وَقُولُوا لِلنَّاسِ حُسْنًا, and say beautiful things to people, say nice words to people. I know we are at a time now where we're all confined within our family, within the four walls of our house in quarantine. This is the time that we are tested to see if we are really going to be saying nice words, and not just to strangers, but to our own family, which really requires more, is more rights upon us to say nice words to them. Then it says, وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظِ, those who control their anger. This is a key component. So not only are they nice and they spend their time, their wealth, their good nature towards others, but they're controlling their anger. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surah Al-Furqan, Surah number 25, Ayah 20, وَجَعَلْنَا بَعْضُكُمْ لِبَعْضٍ فِتْنَةً أَتَصْبِرُونَ. Allah has made some of you a trial for others. You know, some people are going to be a trial. Whenever someone says something that you don't like, whether it's your family member or otherwise, you always have to think and remember, this is a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah has made some of you a trial for others, and Allah is asking you, أَتَصْبِرُونَ, will you be patient? That's something we always need to remember. And remember, when you are angry, just to make wudu in cold water, take time out, go to another room, sit down, you know, and take a break. And going back to Surah Al-Balad, once again, a small surah, Surah 90 of the Holy Quran, it says, وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْمَرْحَمَةِ. And they enjoin, they help one another in patience, وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْمَرْحَمَةِ. And they help one another in compassion, in mercy. That's the essence of the Holy Quran. And it says, وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظِ, those who control their anger, وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ, those who are forgiving towards others. All people, and nas. Remember, these are the attributes of the believer. It doesn't just apply to other believers, it applies to everyone. They forgive others. That's why there's a famous narration that says, مَنْ لَا يَرْحَمْ لَا يُرْحَمْ. Whoever shows no mercy to others, Allah will show no mercy to them, or no mercy will be shown to them. Because you need to be merciful as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is merciful, as His Prophet was the mercy to the worlds, as the Holy Quran is emphasizing this concept. It's the essence of the Holy Book. And then it says, وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ, Allah loves those who do good. Now, it's easy to do good to those who do good to you. The essence of this is that we need to do good to even those who do bad to us. That's why the Ahlul Bayt have repeatedly mentioned, احسنوا لمن أساء إليكم, do good to those who do bad to you. And we always remember there's a beautiful verse, Surah number 41, Ayah 34 in the Holy Quran. It says, وَلَا تَسْتَوِي الْحَسَنَةُ وَلَا السَّيِّئَةُ. Good and evil are not alike. إِدْفَعْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. Repel evil, rebel that which is bad with that which is good, that which is best. Best akhlaq. How do you go against bad? You do it with doing your best and being the best akhlaq and manners. إِدْفَعْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. فَإِذَا الَّذِي بَيْنَكَ وَبَيْنَهُ عَدَاوَةٌ كَأَنَّهُ وَلِيٌّ حَمِيمٌ. And then, lo and behold, it is as though those that you had enmity with, those that you had some hatred and some confrontation with, would be as if they become your warm friend. Remember, if someone is being bad to you, you be extra nice to them. At least then they'll feel bad for being bad to you, and it will transform them as well as transforming your own self to being the purified and being closer to God. And I end on that note, and sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Well, again, we're grateful that we had the pleasure of having Sayyid Ali give us that introduction, and he's with us again from a darker Singapore just now than it was in the video.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam. So now is our opportunity for those that want to have a question or reflection even on this topic, inshallah. And we did mention, and I think that Ali mentioned several different things that we can really get stuck into, inshallah. So if you would like to just unmute your phone or device, and now we can hear some thoughts and questions before I start. Farhat, yeah.
Yeah, so there's one thing that I struggle with, and that is charity was mentioned, and how doing a good deed, and it can be your time, it's not just money, it can be a lot of things, but I find that a lot of boundaries are crossed when you are acting charitably towards maybe some people. Like if you're helping them or if you're doing something, uh, there's no, in normal circumstances you would have boundaries, you'd have a cutoff, you'd have something like that, but sometimes it just goes on and on and on, and then you end up feeling like you're being like maybe even used, or maybe that's not the word to use, but just it starts taking away from yourself and making you feel under pressure or things like that. That's one thing that I struggle with, because to put it into context, I I'm I treat people. I'm a homeopathic doctor, and there's people pay me for their service, but there's some people who can't afford it. I never say no to somebody because they can't afford treatment. And what I find with these people more than the people that pay is, because they're getting the treatment for free, they seem to just demand more and more and want more and more, and then I end up feeling like this is becoming very difficult for me, you know. Whereas people that pay, they understand their boundaries, and they know what to do and what not to do. But I feel like I'm taken advantage of, and then I start feeling bad about it. I wonder what your thoughts are about something like that.
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you for that. That's interesting concepts. I think to start off with, it's good to set the boundaries so they know what they're to be expecting. Because if you keep it open-ended, yes, it just tends to backfire on you. So it is better just to set the boundaries. Okay, this is what we're going to do. This is how long it's going to take, and that's it. Basically, that's the service, and it's not going to be any more than that. And you know, be grateful for it, kind of thing. So it's good to set the boundaries to allow them to understand what's going on, not just to say, okay, I'll help you out, and they think, okay, you're going to help them out with everything in their life and spend your whole time with them, and you know, it goes more than just helping now. So that's number one, set the boundaries. Number two is when we say give, it has to be done wisely, because some people would try and take advantage of us. Some people are you know, like, you know, there's some bad people out there, you know, they try and take advantage of you. So the best thing to do is to be wise about it, not just to give whatever it is and however much it is to anyone and everyone. You do need to be a little bit more wiser than that, you know. Think about it, say, okay, how much do I give? What's a good proportion to give? You know, the Quran always reminds us, you know, to be balanced in our giving, in our way of etiquette, in our way of dealing with things, always a balanced form. So it says, don't give so much that is called extravagance, and don't hold back so much that is become greedy. Always find a middle balance. And that's a true, you know, the characteristics of the true believers, that they're balanced, that they know how to give wisely. They don't do too much over the top or too little either. So it's a little bit of balance in between, and that's the key, I think. Yes, ولا تجعل يدك مغلولة إلى عنقك ولا تبسطها كل البسط. That's the verse that you mentioned, correct? فتكون ملوما مدحورا. Yes. So excellent, thank you for sharing that verse. So yeah, basically it's a balance between it, even in your etiquette, even how you approach the person, how you mention it, it's just a balance. So sometimes when you give someone too much, you make them as well feel, either if they're a good person, then it makes them feel bad because you're giving way too much, you know. You just give it a balance, let them help themselves out as well, you know. Give them a little bit so they can help themselves as well, you know, things like this. So it's all about balancing and using wisdom, hikmah, when we're dealing with people as well. Don't let them trod over you or take advantage over you either, because a believer is one that has honor. So it's an honorable person. So don't let that be taken away from you. You have your own honor as well. I hope
That's
that
helped
answers
me
it.
so, yeah, it's helped me so much. And the other thing that you mentioned there as well is about when you're giving somebody, you be wise, but sometimes there's a difference between being wise and being judgmental, whether somebody deserves it or not. That's a wee bit of an issue as well for me.
Yeah, I think in the end of the day, um, it's a hard question because you don't want to be judgmental against anyone. But I think sometimes it's obvious when someone's trying to take advantage or they're not respectful in their manner towards you. So you can kind of, put a like that kind of a barrier or a step and say, okay, this is how much you're getting, and be grateful for it, kind of thing. Don't kind of push it too much, and it teaches them a lesson as well, I think, because I know some people take advantage. I've seen it myself. Someone, you give something to someone and they want everything, and you're like, no, wait a minute. I don't mind giving everything to you, but I don't think it's a good thing to give everything to you. I think it needs to be balanced, and it needs to be, you need to understand that you need to be more grateful for even the little things that you have, and it changes them. You're teaching them a lesson in the same way. But to judge them, it's not about judging, oh, you deserve to be given something you don't deserve. No, you give everyone something, but in a measured way, kind of thing, and try and see what, sometimes even a kind word is enough. So even if you were to say no to someone, it's the way you say it, and say, okay, if you come back later, things like this, if they're respectful, you'll know that. So it's hard to judge, I think. It's hard to answer as well, because from your experience and what you're seeing is different from what I would be understanding. You'd know best how to deal with it.
Say, Ali, I mean, also, and I'm sure you and anyone in Farhad will definitely relate to this, any of us that are in like a service provision industry, so for example, as a dentist in Scotland, there are typically patients that are exempt and they do not have to pay any fees. And sometimes they end up taking the most time and so forth. One of the key concepts that we keep in mind, and no matter how much I'm sometimes badgered by my nurse to say that this person's an addict, this person's this and that, we have an ethical code that we have to stick to, and we have to treat everyone exactly the same. And so whether, in the ethics of akhlaq, that is, that we have to treat everyone exactly the same as well. Sometimes it's easy for nice people, but it's more difficult for these people that are more challenging, shall we say. But our right upon to our profession and why we do it is so that we keep to these as much as possible. And no matter how much voices come in the ear to tell you that, you know what, give them the bare minimum or absolutely nothing, just so that you can get rid of them. But that would be more harming ourselves rather than harming the person that's not getting the treatment. That's what I find anyway.
Ahsantum, yes.
So I think Sheikhna is continuing to, mashallah, post verses, alhamdulillah, are very relevant to this discussion, alhamdulillah. Sheikh, do you want to come in that point just now?
Okay, I had intended to mute the video because you see this thing on my head. Maybe some people think I'm the one talking tonight, but I wanted to be Said Ali. Actually, I loved Said Ali's input from the beginning. It was good. Thank you very much. The video and the question. Yes, the points that he said about the balance is good, correct. And there are things, for example, who deserves most? For example, this last verse that I have pasted, يَحْسَبُهُمُ الْجَهْلُ أَغْنِيَاءَ مِنَ التَّعَفُّفِ. In Quran, we have this, that if you want to find the best or fitting person for your charity, there are people in all communities, we have this, I think, that there are people that they're needy, but they don't say it. So if you want to give charity, it's better to find those people, those who do not beg. But it doesn't mean you should not give to those who beg. As Brother Ahmed said, I think we have a hadith. I tried to find it, but I couldn't. Our Imam, one of the Imams said, we give to the fuqara, to the needy people, although we know that some of them might not be needy, like they pretend to be needy, or they're as the sister put, they're trying to take advantage of your good manner and good akhlaq. And, but nevertheless, we give them because we don't want to miss those who are really needy, okay? If you make it a habit of yours, not be very, like, for example, strict, then it is possible that you miss a case that the person is really needy. And so it's better to maintain a least minimum of giving. For example, we have this in our ulama, that they never say no to a needy person, even if it's with a very little thing. For example, maybe the person is, I'm sure that the person is not telling the truth, but very little things they give. And something else that is important, apart from the real situation of the person, is the attitude. And we have this in our ahadith, that a person, for example, I think it's about Imam Rida alayhi salam. So the Imam was sitting with his companions. A person came pretending to be a needy person and begging. So Imam gave him, Imam was having grapes with his companions. So Imam gave him a set of bunch of grape, and that person said, I'm asking for money, you're giving me grape? Imam said, Allah has more, Allah yarzuquk, or something like this, that we don't have anything else. If you want, it's here. Otherwise, you can go and seek your rest from Allah. So companions saw this attitude of the Imam. Then another person came. When the Imam gave him the same thing, like little grapes, the person said, Alhamdulillah, thank you, first praised Allah and then praised the Imam. Then Imam added, and he was again grateful. And then Imam added, grateful to Allah. And it goes on until the time that the person is not grateful to Allah, but he starts praising the Imam. And the Imam says, if he were to continue praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I would be giving him more even. So the attitude is important. If you sense in a person that he is becoming more demanding and he's not grateful for the service that he's been given, so we have the example of Imam al-Rida, that yes, it's okay to cut and not to give service. But if you sense in a person that although he might be like giving false information, but at least he has a great attitude, an acceptable attitude. If you give him service, he is thankful to you, he is grateful to you, and he knows that you're giving him you're doing him a favor, right? Some people have this sense of appreciation. So that is good that we can continue and give him. And there is a hadith about the balance. The first verse that I have posted, one of our imams, again, I don't remember exactly. So a person went to the imam and said, how is it that in Quran, we are told to be at the middle? Imam took a handful of dust. They were sitting like on the ground and there was dust, the earth. So Imam took a handful of dust. Here it's visual. I have to turn on the, okay. So he took a handful of dust. Once he opened it all the dust fell down. Imam said, this way, not correct. Another time he took another handful, he wouldn't open, and he said, nothing were pouring down. Imam said, not this. The third time he got a handful of dust, so he took his palm mid-open like this. So there were a little falling and little remaining inside his palm. He said this is the way that we should. So you always keep something. That something can be the time that you spend in your medical profession. It can be the money that you spend to give people for your family and for needy people. So you keep something for yourself and you dedicate some to other people as well. This, I think, is the best way. I mean, the very simple example that the Imam showed us how to maintain a balance in spending our time, our money, our service to society, or whatever.
Thank you, Sheikhna, for the input. So is there any other thoughts and reflections that people want to say? I'm sure there's lots of comments as well, but just feel free to unmute. Sonia, yes.
No, it was just I just was reminded of a incident when you were just having the discussion a minute ago. Slam, thank you everyone for the Sheikh and Sayyid Ali as well. Beautiful. I was in Iran and there was always a lady outside our hotel. This was in Mashhad, and she was always asking for money, asking for money. One day, we went to the shrine and they were so generous and gave everybody, you know, food to take away, and we actually had much more than we needed. And actually, when I saw this lady, you know, I thought I offered her that, but no, I don't want that kind of thing. Just want money. But I think sometimes when we pray to God to help us when it comes to charity, assist us as well, because it happened twice. So after that, I said, please help me find somebody who would be really needy and, you know, who would really benefit and be, you know, this will be really good for them. And, you know, I just started walking along the lanes and went down this another lane, and there was somebody just sitting there not begging or anything. And I went up to him and offered him, and he was just like so grateful and like, you know, just made a big difference to his day. And exactly the same thing happened in Qom, that we had more than we needed. And I was outside the hotel and I just read a dua. It was absolutely deserted outside where I was standing, and I read a dua to, like, if I can give this to someone that will really benefit. And then this old man just suddenly appeared out of nowhere, and I gave it to him, and it was thank you, and went away. I don't know, you had to kind of be there to sort of experience it. But it was like, you know, your risk, that's, you know, it's set aside for you, and it was just really nice. So I just thought I'd share those little stories. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you. I have to make a very important notice. Some people, especially in those holy cities of Mashhad and Qom, because I've been victim to these people several times. And recently, you see, this is the situation that they have. It's for their own good, that people, so always you have in the manaber, especially when people go to haram, their hearts are lenient, and they're very easy to be cheated. So on the nights of Qadr, you see these people, and especially as I said, in the atmosphere of Qom, when they are all talking about charity and stuff. So we have these issues. They're professional beggars, and actually recently some of them, they're working in a network, and they have a fortune. It's like for some of them, they had houses, like not just one, they have properties, they're working, those children are working for some boss there. So and it's somehow impossible to stop them, and they come up. I have stories about how they would try to myself. And for example, one scenario for them was that I'm a traveler. I've been, last year this happened to me. I was going to Haram in Qom at the middle of the night in the month of Ramadan. So you're very spiritual and you're doing the dhikr. And so but from far, somebody can recognize that this sheikh is in a very spiritual mode, so that I can do my job. So a mother and a child, they approached me and they said, for example, yeah, we need money to get back to our city. Their hometown is somewhere. I said, okay, let's go to the terminal. I pay for you, get you on the bus or whatever that is there. And we go, and I talk to the driver, and everything I do for you. And once I said this, they just disappeared completely. And I was truly going to help them. So I have stories. But for example, another city of Iran, there is Tabriz. So the authorities of the city, there are rules that to stop beggars. And so there is no beggar in and they call it the city without beggars. Some of the religious people, they were against this. But they said, I mean, the authorities in the city, they said, we provide for them shelter and food and whatever. And then like the organizations, charity organizations, elsewhere in Iran also there is charity organization. But it is that some people believe it's a long story. You should be very careful. I mean, everyone should be very careful in this, especially those professional ones that they know whom to approach and how to convince you. My own solution for this is always to give them, for example, as you said, the food, for example, or try to know what their problem is. For example, if your problem is food, if your problem is the ticket back home or whatever, just as you shared your story, I wanted to share my story as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Sheikhna. Any other points, reflections on this point?
I could add to that. Assalamu alaikum,
Yes,
everyone.
yes.
I've got a bit of deja vu saying you together, Ani and Ahmed, but it's nice to see you both. Anyway, Sonia, thank you for sharing your story, and of course, Sheikh as well. It just brought to mind like something that I find quite difficult and kind of confusing at times is like you were both talking about, you know, there's obviously people like quote unquote professional beggars or whatever it is, or people that work for someone. And a lot of the time, you know, if you kind of walk past these kind of people, sometimes people will say like, oh, it's best not to donate because then people will think it's working. But then obviously at the same time, we're supposed to not judge and not just assume that people have come from a specific place or that they're begging for a specific reason. And I'm not necessarily asking for like a straight answer of how to approach that, but I was just wondering, I don't know if anyone had any thoughts about the best way to kind of go about that, because, you know, it's finding that balance between not judging, but then not contributing to something that is bad. So anyway, I was wondering if anyone had any thoughts about that.
Sayed, go ahead.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Should I go ahead? Sorry, Sheikhna. Thank you. Thanks for your inputs, everyone. That was very nice. It's nice to hear the stories as well, Sonia and Sheikh. Thank you once again. Yes, salam, Luna. Nice to hear from you as well. So I think the Sheikh kind of mentioned this, kind of instead of just giving what they want, asking exactly what their needs are. So seeing if there's something in particular, something that you can help with. Are they hungry? Okay, let's go. I'll buy you the food. That's something that we used to do in the UK as well. So it used to be common that whenever like we saw the beggar on the street, they'd be asking for money because we know from the documentaries that, you know, they might have spent it on drugs or alcohol or something. So we'd ask them, okay, I'll buy you something. You want to go to the shop? You choose something, I'll buy that for you. So something like that can help. It's the best kind of way to do it. So see what they actually need and see if you can help them. Sometimes if they're smoking or something like that and they can afford smoking, you know, I'd tell them, you know, you're smoking, how can you afford that? It's very expensive in itself. You know, I'd actually confront the idea if I see some signs that are not in place, you know. So you have to be wise as well. You know, a Muslim, a mu'min is someone who is wise about these things. They don't just give to anyone and everyone. You not being judgmental, but not being you know, like silly about it. You know, if you see someone and they're holding something that they shouldn't be, you ask them, okay, what about, you know, where do you live? Are you not getting any social services, any help from the government? Because the government do give help as well, and they give quite a bit, you know, enough to keep you off the road and things. So you can ask these questions if you're suspicious in any way. But yeah, seeing what their needs are is the best method, I think, and trying to help that exactly.
Thank you. Exactly what I wanted to say. But let me make a comment. These people who are giving false description of themselves, they have a positive side as well. There's a hadith saying that if it wasn't for those who are lying among the needy people, among the beggars, if it wasn't for the fact that there are some people, some of these beggars are lying, you would not be given respect by Allah because you ignore the beggars. And the punishment of Allah would fall upon you because of you ignoring the beggars. So we are only being given respite by Allah, and Allah is merciful to us with the fact that sometimes, most of the times, the wealthy people are ignoring those who are privileged, they ignore the underprivileged. Allah is only merciful for them because there is a reality that there are some people lying, and Allah says maybe these people are not considering or giving help to these people because of this excuse, and which is an acceptable excuse. So this existence of such liars among the beggars actually has a good and positive side effect for us, because otherwise we had to help all the beggars that we would